I have a weird question for you. What would it be like if the contents of your mind were projected out around you?
This is the condition that we're all in the afterlife, which is that the contents of our minds and hearts are actually projected around us in visual, intriguing forms.
Today in this show, we're going to look at 4 eyewitness accounts of landscapes, gardens that are created by the minds of the people who are there. And we're going to give you tips on how you can improve your own mental landscape as well. Hey everybody, welcome to the Swedenborg in Life podcast. My name is Curtis Childs, I'm your host. Hey Dr. Jonathan Rose.
Hey Curtis.
Welcome back for another exciting episode. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to have eyewitness accounts from the 1700s of mind landscapes in the afterlife, which is going to reveal to us a crucial mechanism about how the spiritual world works.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's also going to give us a sense of like, oh, the kind of mind I have is going to dictate what the place around me is like and how I can make that a nice place. Okay?
Yeah, that's right. It's improvable. Like you can, if you don't like your landscape, there's something you can do about it.
It's, we're giving you like a spiritual horticultural lesson here. It's fascinating.
Where else do you get this?
It's the reason why you have biblical imagery about gardens like the Garden of Eden. It's the reason why you feel the way you do when you're in nature and in gardens and things. So I'm going to hit you with 2 principles first.
Okay.
Set the scene for this. And this is describing afterlife based on, if anyone's not familiar, these are the accounts of the 18th century genius philosopher turned mystic. Some would say lost his mind. Others would say saw the truth. You be the judge. These are his, which was a subset of I think the most complete set of spiritual experiences ever recorded.
Yeah.
Or most extensive or whatever. So this is from his book, Heaven and Hell, talking about his travels in the afterlife. Here we go. To angels who are focused on intelligence, there appear gardens and parks full of all kinds of trees and flowers. The trees there are laid out in the loveliest designs, joined into vaulted arches offering spaces for entrance, and with promenades,
but
potato, promenades around them. All this is so beautiful as to defy description. So forget that description we just gave you.
That's right.
It's better than you're picturing. There are kinds of tree and flower there never seen, not even possible in our world. In the trees, too, there are fruits in keeping with the quality of love these intelligent angels are absorbed in. I'll come back and talk about a few of these things.
Yes.
They see such things because a garden and a park and the fruit trees and flowers correspond to intelligence and wisdom.
That's quite a statement. And you do have this idea over in different traditions, I think, of where people go to the afterlife and there's a garden. Isn't there the idea in ancient Greek mythology of the Elysian fields, where you go after you die? And didn't, there was something about Black Elk Speaks. I think he's got something about the garden, the grasslands that he's going to go to. And
you have, Zen gardens. You have people all over the world cultivating the land in certain ways to try to feel something or connect to something. And here it's saying that you have that in the afterlife too, but this is directly based on the minds of the angels who are there. And Swedenborg uses the term angels just to mean people like us. Well, maybe not exactly like us, but good people.
Better people. Yeah.
Real good people.
Real good people.
I'm giving this the impression the bar is really high. I'm just saying, we got some issues. Most people are going to be great angels.
Yeah.
And when you're there, if you're focused on intelligence, which there's angels that are focused on different things, if you're focused on intelligence, around you appears all that stuff we just said, because that's the kind of thing that's in your mind. In keeping with the fruits are in keeping with the quality of the love these intelligent angels are absorbed in. So you would walk, there's a tree that's amazing, it's got a fruit that you never seen before, and it's there, and you pick it and you eat it, and it is the embodiment of some good love that you have. that closes the loop, man. So you have like feelings and thoughts inside you, and then you have stuff outside you, like you eat things to survive and you see things, but there it's like it's all one. Like the love you have in your heart manifests as this thing, and that thing can sustain you, you know?
Yeah, and it's very helpful to, one of the great mysteries about being in this life on this planet is that we don't know much about what each other are thinking or feel. You know, there's a little element of mystery, isn't there? A lot of the time, well, where are you coming from? Or what's your motivation? You know,
it's so much of a bother. It can be. So, you know, privacy is good, but you're trying to help somebody. You're trying to figure out, like, what do you need? What are you thinking about? There's a lot of miscommunications.
Yeah, and just an element of mystery. When Swedenborg's in the afterlife, he's able to use the circumstances in which he sees people. You know, sometimes he sees people in situations where they're just in this little hut that's kind of badly constructed and has kind of cracks in the structure. And so he knows, oh, okay, yeah, their state of mind is not very solid right now. You know, there's something going on with them. Or he sees people in some beautiful area, or someone who's talking a good game, but it's just, gravel, like it's just a gravel field or something. And those things can be really beautiful in this world. But he can judge, there's no fruit here, nothing's growing.
So the spiritual world is why is it like this, and why does it matter to us? So the spiritual world, y'all are in it right now. Like the mental part of us is spiritual. According to Swedenborg, your consciousness is spiritual. So to go and learn this stuff about the minutia of the way the spiritual world works, it's helping us figure out how the mind works.
This is this so what, isn't it?
Because when you're trying to figure out, what's really going on with something, you're trying to look past the physical reality to the spiritual reality. Because how many million documentaries are there? There's some entertainer or athlete or something who seems like they have it all together, and they have a great house, and it's a condo, and it's looking out over the bay, but yet they've got some addiction or something. And so you actually their external circumstances, you're trying to peer past that into what's going on in the mind.
What's really going on? That's
in the spiritual world, there's a transparency. Like you can see what's going on in the mind from what's going on around.
It's an honest world. Yeah.
And that is because of this principle that's called correspondences. At the last sentence there, which I put a square around that word, correspond, I did my work here. The garden and a park and the fruit trees and the flowers correspond to intelligence and wisdom.
So they correspond to these human traits, and yet they're manifest in things that the sort of classical way of categorizing things is that that's not human, that's grass, that's a plant, this is an animal, this is a bird.
It's all more interconnected than that. So if you go out and you look at some kind of beautiful landscape, you're seeing an image of intelligence. Like if you had to draw, what's that game where you got to try to draw things that are abstract and you're cranium, it's not cranium, but something like that. If God were to draw intelligence, he would draw this land, this park, this landscape, this beautiful field of growing things, because that's how the mind works. He's saying you can learn from that how your mind works, because just like in a field, there are seeds that then need water and light and heat, which will then grow into plants, which will reproduce. That's exactly how it is in your mind with true things or false things. That seed gets in, they grow, they germinate. If you need light, which is like the truth that shines on it from God, you need the love to make it grow. Your mind follows that same pattern. That's all.
And I think we experience this sometimes where you meet a new person and sometimes it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on in this person, Yes. A lot of interesting thoughts and this is connected with that and this is connected with, there's just this rich, I can kind of see a tiny bit how that would manifest in the spiritual world as just a lot of vegetation with different kinds of fruit and different. Yeah.
We have to explain this, everyone, in case you're wondering why. Why are they laying out this? Why are they still talking about this? You know, in Christmas Carol, when it's like, the Marleys were dead to begin with, that you must know, or nothing that follows will seem wondrous. This you must know, or everything that follows in our 4 accounts of these gardens of the afterlife will seem arbitrary.
Yeah.
It will seem like he's just making it up.
Sure.
It's some poorly written fantasy novel without a lot of rules around its magic system or something. But this is the system by which you'll see then why these gardens emerge like they do. By the way, it's the same system if you go and people that have near-death experiences and they see landscapes and they even see buildings and stuff. This is a system that by which those things come into existence as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And I haven't heard of near-death experiences. I haven't read them all. I don't know them all, but I haven't heard of ones that happen in no context. You know, or like you're out in the middle of deep space or something. No, there's hills and there's fields and there's, you know, but you can sort of zoom, if you just focus your attention, you can go over to this next area.
Yeah.
And they describe a level of beauty and aliveness that they can't really put it into words, but that every single thing in the landscape, the air is alive. All the things are alive in a way that this world is relatively dead, even though we're surrounded by what we call life here too. It's an amazing amount of life on this planet.
The life comes from the spirit. Like the physical matter, according to Swedenborg, is dead. Everything that's alive is because it has something spiritual in it. Okay, this is the other foundation piece here, and this is about how you can have your mind that way as well. It says, this is again from Swedenborg, people of the church are also like gardens in respect to their intelligence when they possess goodness of love from the Lord, because the spiritual warmth that enlivens them is love, and spiritual light is resulting intelligence. That's what I was trying to say about you're like the field.
Oh, okay.
People know that these two, warmth and light, cause gardens in the world to bloom. It is the same in heaven. Paradisal gardens are seen in heaven, with trees bearing fruit in accordance with the inhabitants' wisdom that springs from their goodness of love from the Lord.
It makes so much sense when he says it that way to me, you know, that the whole point is that even though he's talking about intelligence and how intelligence manifests in the other world, that it's not just a matter of light or thought. What makes you intelligent is a loving heart. You know, that's what takes you to the next level. And of course, with growing things, if you just have light and you have no warmth, nothing happens.
Yeah, intelligence is love. Love is intelligence. Wisdom is love. That's cool. To say, look, what's the peak of getting it is when you start to understand that love matters. You were talking about near-death experiences. That's what everybody comes back from. I was just watching yesterday. There was, I don't remember his name, but he's a famous actor. Oprah was interviewing him, got crushed by a snowplow. You guys can Google it.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about, he had this near-death experience. And,
oh, yeah?
And
I didn't know he had one.
He came back and he's just like, love is all that matters. You know, like, I'm great. I have this acting job, bad reviews. Who cares? Like, love is what matters. God is the totality of love, you know, so that's good.
Because you can picture the opposite, which in my mind, like you do encounter sometimes in this world, people who have tremendous knowledge or a sharpness in their thinking, you know, and they may have tremendous command of all these different things. But they're nasty, you know, right? You know what I mean? That they're just kind of, I'm not talking about myself entirely, but, you know, they're just, you know.
I was going to say, I know you're not subtweeting me because I don't have that intelligence thing. I know that there's...
And so he's saying that doesn't rise to this level. That doesn't create that kind of landscape. Because if it's not loving, if it's not warm or compassionate, it's something else.
Yeah, definitely. Even people, you know, that we would we want to have them as a guest on this show, or would we want to go on their shows or something, or do you want to? They gotta have that love, or else you're just like, wow, I don't want to talk to them like that. Yeah. Inviting them in is not going to give people the kind of inspiration and uplift that we're hoping to give them. Also, in the beginning of that, just real quick, it says people of the church are also light gardens. There's this particular church that you have to go to in order. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
So Swedenborg will use that phrase in case anyone's not familiar. The church is a state of being inside of you, which is essentially love and faith, which faith is sort of a belief in the truth, which can consist of many different philosophies and things. And love is using that to do well. Anyone who's trying to do that, Swedenborg would say, you're a person of the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are many different sort of codes that you can follow, but it's important to have one. And it's important to do what that suggests.
Finally, there's a little quote we have from Swedenborg's True Christianity, where he's talking to angels and seeing a scene in the afterlife, and it says, the angel said, all the things you saw, they'd just seen this garden, correspond to different feelings of love felt by the angels who are nearby. So everything in the afterlife is like feelings made manifest, okay? Minds made manifest. That said, let's take a look at our first garden.
Yeah, and I think this is very surprising. I don't know, but I think it's surprising to the angels. Like they're not reflecting on it. They're not sort of doing it. Oh, better turn on my projector so that you get more trees in the distance. No, this is just flowing through from that divine light.
It's all God. God is like that's the system God has to run. Just like here, we aren't reflecting on how we move our bodies and digest things, and we're not reflecting on gravity or the way that sound works or something. It just happens. So it is there. Okay. This is garden number 1 from Swedenborg's True Christianity, 741. So this is him in the afterlife traveling with some people, and they're talking to an angel. After that, the angel said to them, it is almost noon. Come with me into the garden of our prince, which is next to the palace. So you're in a community. This one has a prince. They went to the garden. At the entrance to it, the angel said, enjoy this, the most magnificent of all the gardens in this heavenly community. What do you think they're going to say when they see it? You know?
Oh, right.
They're probably going to say, wow, this is more beautiful than I've ever.
I have never even seen some of this before.
This is incredible. Okay, so here's what they say. What are you saying? Was their reply. There is no garden here. We see just a single tree. On its branches and on its top, we see something like pieces of fruit made of gold, and leaves made of silver with emeralds along their edges. And under the tree there are little children with their caregivers. The angel replied in an inspired voice. I'm not going to try to do the inspired voice. The tree you mention is at the center of the garden. We call it the tree of our heaven. Others refer to it as the tree of life. Keep going forward, though, and get closer to it, and your eyes will be opened, and you will see the garden.
Ah, yeah. So it's not automatic that you can see this or perceive it. Also, really interesting, isn't it? Aren't there things in Lord of the Rings where there's these sort of ancient, or also Avatar, obviously, where,
I was thinking
where you have
the same
like
thing.
Central trees that like everything is about this tree and how is this tree doing?
I was thinking of Avatar. I think I saw number 2 on the plane sometime, and that's right. So many. I was reading a book. There's this important tree that somehow anchors a community. And here you have it.
Here it
1700s.
Is. This is based on something from the spiritual world. That's
and
so great.
Saying that maybe that's why we resonate with those kind of stories.
Yeah.
That there's not just this is a tree, but this is a symbol. This is a manifestation. Even there's children underneath it, the kind of fruits it has. This is somehow the manifestation of that particular heaven, that community in heaven. You'd go to a different community in heaven, they would have a different central something. Also that you don't see it right away, you have to get in close. That's kind of how it is with heaven and with goodness. I was just talking to somebody yesterday because we were getting ready, they're going to interview me for something, and we were like kind of doing before
a pre,
before thingy.
right.
And we were talking about seeing, as you do, we were talking about, you know, seeing love between people, or like people doing good and noble and kind things, and how you are moved by that, and you see, oh, that's like God, like that. But you don't see that in certain times in your life where you're like, I gave the example of like you're sort of young and you're like full of this other stuff, and like like what's cool and what's not cool. You don't understand that that's the coolest thing. You kind of see it out there, but no, I like being flashy or edgy or mean or something like. But then as you get closer and you kind of live enough life, you start to see, oh, that's what's really beautiful. You get closer to it, you see there's this whole garden around that.
People use that language, don't they? It's like, that is so beautiful. You know?
Yeah.
That thing that somebody did for somebody else. That's so beautiful.
So Angel tells them to get closer, see if they can see the rest of the garden. They did so, and their eyes were opened. They saw trees bearing abundant edible fruit, with grapevines wrapped around their limbs. The fruit-laden tops of the trees were bowing inward toward the tree of life at the center.
Sort of nodding and
Yeah, and everything. I mean, if you've been around Swedenborg at all, grapevines around a tree, it's obviously spiritual and celestial. There's like a on the nose symbolism there.
Loaded with symbolism.
These trees were laid out in a long curving row that extended and came around to form the arcing arm of a grand spiral. It was a perfect spiral of trees, in which one species followed another according to the relative excellence of its kind of fruit. A large inner space separated the beginning of the spiral from the tree at the center. This open space was sparkling with a gleaming light, which lit the trees in such a way that each tree seemed to pass the glow on to the next, from the first trees all the way to the last.
Yeah, so we're not on planet Earth anymore quite with that
Fern Gully, yeah.
description. It's crazy beautiful. And to think about, just those fruit. And then it's not enough that you've got this gorgeous tree that's covered with amazing fruit, but then you throw in a grapevine that's also bearing more fruit that's climbing on the tree.
Because it's a correspondence to good. He says fruit corresponds to the good acts of love. So if you look at an individual person, it's like we are like a tree where you grow, you start to learn things. The leaves are like the ideas that you learn that point you towards what is good. It's when you actually start to do what is good and arrange your life around that. That's like the fruit, like the act of I know that I'm supposed to do unto others as I would have them do unto me, and so I don't upcharge this guy more than I need to for this, and instead I help him, and even to give him a little discount or something. I do a good job, even though I could have got away with he would never would have known if I did a bad job. That's fruit. Like that's something that has life in it. And this is a picture of that, a picture of the state all the angels in that garden have gotten to.
And we've all felt love of different kinds, but I keep getting this mental image of projectors. You shine a light through something that projects onto a wall or a screen. How would we know what love looks like? How do we feel it, but how do you know? It has a beauty that we don't see with our physical eyes. But when the spiritual projector shines through us, you can see that is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
And there's information, it doesn't go through and explain it, but there's divine revelation in this. That you have the tree in the center and it's passing, it's like there's sparkly light being passed from one tree to the next all the way out to the periphery.
And that gap.
Yeah.
That's
well, that's
so
the picture. I would say that he says that there in all of reality, there's God in the center. And then there's just a bunch of space where nobody can even approach that. And then there are these heavens and out all the way to the earth here. So even the nature here, even if you go out and look at the trees in the local nature preserve, we don't know always how to read it, but there's divine revelation in that.
And people are learning a lot just lately about the cooperation. People have thought of nature as being just sort of red in tooth and claw. It's all a big battle for survival and all that. And, that element is in there somewhere. But nature is actually much more collaborative than we realize. The trees are helping each other. And you kind of have that in this image, all the trees lined up, and this light that's kind of passed from one to the next. So they're all part of this chain.
Continuing on, the trees toward the center were the most excellent of all. They were covered in rich, sumptuous fruit, called paradise trees. They were unlike anything that has ever been or could ever be witnessed on Earth or anywhere in the physical universe. Not even on Alpha Centauri. The trees next to them were various kinds of trees that yield oil. Then came various kinds of trees that yield wines, then trees that give off beautiful fragrances, and finally trees whose wood is used for making things.
Huh. And Swedenborg knows enough about nature and was a big gardener, loved his garden.
Yeah.
Why is this tree next to, wait, walnut oil? There's these are all oils. This is all oils down here.
So there's a joining of, you have this tree which is making this fruit, and just biologically, trees produce fruit so that something can eat them. And so that something will disperse the seeds that are in them. There's a symbiosis.
Yeah,
that's why anything produces fruit. It's for the use that will be provided.
I'll do this for you if you do this for me. Yeah, transport this somewhere else.
According to Swedenborg, the entire universe is use-oriented.
Yeah.
In one place, he even says God created the universe so that usefulness could exist. So here, he's like, these different trees have different kinds of usefulness, different kinds of ways in which they can benefit living beings, and so that affects their arrangement.
And the bottom of the line is just great wood,
Right.
Beautiful wood from these ones down at the end of the line.
Here and there along this long spiraling line of trees, there were living benches.
Living, yes, as one.
I had a band called the Living Benches. Living benches. Okay, let me hear what this is cool. There were living benches that had been crafted by bending and weaving together the branches of the tree just behind them. These were decorated with an abundance of the tree's fruits. Along the continuous arcing line of trees, there were openings that led into flower gardens, and these led to lawns that were divided into grassy areas and flower beds.
Almost makes me think of that fractal image where you keep zooming in, and then what you thought was just a little, and then you can keep zooming in, and oh no, there's a whole garden in between these two trees. There's just this whole world in there, and then there's another.
There's organic kind of living structure, bend the tree into the bench, which people do. You see that there's these bridges in Asia. I'm forgetting which country, but people have coaxed these kind of
even the roots,
fig
don't
tree.
they?
So that makes this living bridge that lasts for hundreds of years. I don't know how familiar Swedenborg was with practices like that, but he sees this here in heaven, and then all these places with this continued meaning. Seeing all this, the people accompanying the angel said, "It is heaven itself laid out before us." Wherever we turn our eyes, we encounter something of heaven, something of paradise that is beyond description. The angel rejoiced to hear this. It's like, oh, you like it? And said, all the gardens in our heaven are representative forms or models of the origins of heavenly blessings. The reason why you exclaimed, "It is heaven itself laid out before us," is that an actual inflow of these blessings lifted your minds. People who are not open to that inflow only see these garden paradises as a forest. People who love being useful are receptive to this inflow. And people who love glory apart from usefulness are not. Then the angel explained to them and taught them the meaning and representation of all the individual features of the garden.
And we don't get that.
Sorry.
Yeah. And all of this harks back to the beginning of the Bible, where there's a story of a garden, right? There's a paradise. The whole story begins with Adam and Eve in this garden, and there's a tree right at the center of that garden, and it's called the tree of life. And in this story, he said what the angels who lived there had one name for the tree, but other people call it the tree of life. Was that what he said?
Man, let me go back to my notes here. We call it the tree of our heaven. Others refer to it as a tree of life.
The tree of our heaven, yeah. Yeah, the tree of life. And when you get, after you go through all the drama of the Bible, all these stories and many different authors and everything, you get to the end and there's the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. And it has a tree of life in it with these many different kinds of fruit, and there's a river, and
that's right.
The same kind of imagery that you get from the beginning of the Bible. So it's a very garden, the Bible is a garden-centered revelation.
We had a whole show about, or more than one, about the Garden of Eden. And if you get into that, everyone knows that there's the story of the snake and the fruit and all that, but there's also a lot of description that you kind of gloss over of what was in the garden, where these rivers flowed in it, how it was laid out. And according to Swedenborg, it's the same as this garden, meaning all that is teaching you things. It's like it's an information carrier. And this, like, there's so many principles being expressed here. One is the angel rejoicing to hear that they love the garden.
That they got it, they could see it, because not everybody can see it.
And so you might wonder, why? Is that because he's like, oh yeah, they think ours is so great? Swedenborg says to be an angel, which again, this is the state that you and I are called to be in. The point of life on earth, if you want to know the point of life on earth, is, according to Swedenborg, correct me if I'm wrong, it's regeneration. The regeneration is the process that would be probably better known as being born again.
Yep.
Which, according to Swedenborg, is a process by which you don't actually literally get born again, but like Jesus says, you become sort of a new person, because you go from, like it says here, self-centered, what's my greatest dream? I'm on stage and everybody else is miserable. Or some form of, like, that would be the greatest thing, to an angel who the angelic mindset is that, he says at one point, angels, like something like they're not really happy with a joy that they have unless it can be shared with someone.
Yes, that's
like,
right.
This thing I have isn't really anything until I can share it with somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's right.
That's crazy.
That's right.
I like it, but so here, angel is saying,
can you imagine living in a community like that, like a whole world like that? Great.
That's to love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
So here he's saying, oh, good, we can give this, like, you love it. You love it, don't you? Yes.
You got it, and you saw it. And I love that and the angel even tells them where their inspiration came from, because they're suddenly, this is heaven itself. They may not even know why they're saying it.
Yeah.
But it actually is. It actually is a picture of how all the pieces fit together and how beautiful it all is, and a creation of God. And yet it's done through human, we're allowed to participate in it, but this is a divine work of just extraordinary beauty.
Oh, just come on, just people who love being useful or receptive to this inflow. By the way, what is another way to say what an angel is you love being useful. That's just not, like, I love the thing that most feeds me, the fruit that I eat, is that I really enjoy and get my satisfaction and recharge my batteries, maybe recharge or by doing something that's useful. That's the key to heaven.
It's not, as the Bible says, it's not far off. It's not across the ocean that you'd have to go get it. It's right here. It's that. A lot of people, almost everybody, is useful, but not everybody enjoys being useful, or they can't wait until they can stop doing this and do something else that feels better.
Yeah.
Right. But so it can be an acquired taste for people. But when you get that love of, oh man, it's the only thing that it feels the best. It's the best.
Final point from this one. The divine intent, according to Swedenborg, is that the human race should be happy. Divine providence is, he quotes, divine providence has for its goal a heaven from the human race, which a heaven, Swedenborg just defines as, is a state of mind in which you're happy and you're peaceful.
Yeah.
And those are sort of the key characteristics of it. So that's why God created everything. Everything is meant to do that. And you might look around at the world and be like, yeah, I don't know. But this, I think, is showing a divine intent to do that you're surrounded by this landscape that's of incredible beauty, and it reinforces everything that's good in you, and you add to it, and it's all about making these people happy in a meaningful way. So that's good. And I think you can see that we have the capability down here to shape the world into things like this, or to make it miserable to live in. Like, it's very much like it's there in heaven, and this is why we're trying to do the same thing on the earth.
There's something too in this story about the fact that the trees are sequenced. There's something about order. The human spirit, I see it in myself, I see it in other people, you see it in little children, where there's just a love of disorder. Like, there's a love of, oh, look, there's a whole stack of, I want to smash it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
There's something that just gets a kick out of blowing things up or whatever it is. This heavenly love is, no, everything's in the right place. All these trees, they're all, because that way they support each other, and everybody's got a role, and they're all working together. That's part of it. Part of it is an order, not sort of a stiff kind of, everybody should do this, and then you have to do it, and you should. No, not like that. It's just that this is in the right spot. This is where this tree belongs.
Ain't nobody in the world doesn't want their knee in order.
That's right.
If your knee's been out of order, you want it. You are
unhappy.
Patella's got to rest where it's got to rest. Tibia and fibula have got to be where they need to be.
Very impressive.
Like, don't Google that. It's probably the arm ones. Everything's got to be where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then that gives you plenty of freedom. Like, you can go and do all these things with it.
And
that's what order is about.
Disordered, it's miserable, and you can only do a quarter of what you can do when it's working well.
Garden of the Mind, number 2. And this garden is got a name to it.
Oh.
Yeah. There's even somebody who wrote a song about this.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
You can search the name. It's on. I've heard it. They use quotes from us in this show on it. It's very cool. This is from Swedenborg's book.
He should have been called Swedenborg.
And that should be his LLC. Swedenborg's.
Swedenborg.
Married Love, number 183. In the east, I saw a grove of palms and laurels placed in spiral curves.
Spirals
again. And also, by the way, in case you're not familiar, when he's talking about this, he's traveled out of his body at this point, or he's seeing into the spiritual world.
Yeah.
He physically, he would be in Stockholm or London or something right now. I don't know, sitting. I don't know if he's got his eyes closed. He never says, but he's traveling spiritually. I went to it, entered, and walked a few times on the curved paths. And at the end of the paths, I saw a garden forming the center of the grove. A little bridge separated it, with a gate at the grove end and a gate at the garden end. I approached, and a keeper opened the gates. "What is the name of the garden?" I asked him. He said, Adramandoni, which means married love's delight.
I'm stuck on a minor point, which is I was wondering whether Swedenborg ever saw palm trees. It's interesting that he's got a whole curve of palm trees.
Right.
Because he traveled to Germany and Holland and, Sweden and England, but not places where you get
Spain.
A profusion of palm trees. He went to Italy. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know whether, but he had travelogues. He had a lot of books. He really seemed to enjoy having travelogue books, and a lot of them had illustrations. So he'd probably seen depictions of palm trees.
Is it like, hey, here's a garden in the afterlife. Here's like angels. I wonder if Swedenborg ever saw palm trees.
Sorry.
No, it's to me. I'm like, yeah. Oh, did he? Yeah. Adramandoni, is that an angel word? Like how? What does he spell that out in the Latin? Or
Yep.
Like, okay.
And it's not the only time. There's a few, just a handful, maybe 5, 6, 7 different words that he gives you.
Yeah.
One that I just encountered in my editing was that, there were flashing lights that the high priest would wear, the stones that would light up.
Ephod.
And they were called the Urim and the Thummim, which are 2 Hebrew plural words.
Yeah.
And he says the reason they were called the Thummim is because Thummim has a different meaning in angelic language. That word does occur in angelic language, but it means something different in angelic. And that's why that word was chosen. It's just, so there's a layering there. But yeah, it's very curious that he'll give you words of angelic language just occasionally.
This garden is called Adramandoni. I went in, and there were olive trees with trailing vines hanging from tree to tree. And flowering shrubs under and among them. In the middle of the garden was a grassy circle, where husbands and wives and young men and women were sitting 2 by 2, and in the middle of the circle, where the ground rose, was a little spring leaping high from the force of its stream. So kind of a good place for a date.
Yeah, a nice fountain, this grassy area, and struck by this image, because in Pennsylvania, where you and I are, you can get these porcelain berry vines that like choke the trees or whatever.
Dude.
But he's talking about a beautiful image of vines that go from one tree to another that's got some positive meaning.
Nobody really told me about the vines. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, so there it's a little sparser. Here is like Pennsylvania is like vines. It's all vines all the time. If you go away for a week, you come back, it's just vines.
Your whole property is vines.
That's right. The fertility of the soil is great. Okay. That's off topic. All right. We're in the middle of Adramandoni. There's couples there. When I came closer, I saw 2 angels in purple and scarlet, talking with people sitting on the grass. They were talking about the source of married love and its delights. And since the conversation was about that love, there was eager attention and complete reception, which put an excitement like the fire of love in the angel's speech.
So, in other words, because people were receptive and listening, which you can tell sometimes, can't you? You're talking to people if they're lit up. So the fact that they were lit up changed the quality of what the angels were like. It again, just like the angel was so happy that people could just even see the garden. These angels are happy that people are receptive to what they're saying.
Well, you've given lectures to people. If you ever give a talk to any crowd of people, if they care about what you're saying, I just have to imagine that the people on the other side of this camera care about what we're saying. If they care about what you're saying, it's so much easier to do. Yeah. And I think right here, that even for angels, like it's a reciprocal thing. They're trying to teach each other this stuff. But if the receiving party loves and is attentive, then that supercharges the angels. I think that's like how it is with us and God. That God is always trying to come in. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. That there's this constant pressing to be received, because what's God always trying to do is get you into a state of heaven. But when you're receptive to that, when you're interested, when you're seeking God in the same way, I bet that supercharges the effort somehow. Yeah. I mean, God is constant, but like it does something.
Yeah.
Okay, so also this is like, you found your audience niche. Like, this is a garden for people who are interested in this pursuit of deep spiritual, romantic love. And you have angels who are teaching about that. And so everybody there is like, this is what I came here for. So I want to hear this.
I imagine these people may have had questions for years and years and years. how does this work? Or what is the, like, what's the underpinning of all this? And why does this get in the way? And what's this and what's that?
Yeah.
And then you get these wise people who are dressed here in purple and scarlet, they look gorgeous and they're just answering your questions like, wow, I have waited for this. This is awesome.
I always think of when I hear Swedenborg describing scenes like this, that they're just kind of like randomly happening, floating around, and angels just kind of go in a dream state. But probably this could be like a workshop that these angels knew they were going to go to, and they were, it's happening at Adramandoni, which is like a great place to learn about this. All right, let's go. We'll sign. I don't know if you have to sign up, but now it's happening. It's probably not just we're walking along and this started up.
Yeah.
There's teaching, there's learning, there's life, there's order in that life. So I think that's probably, they're like, all right, how sometimes you go to the doctor and they're like, hey, by the way, while I'm examining, this is my medical student so-and-so. Is it all right if they are here?
If they sit in.
And you're just like, okay, sure. And what if that's what it's like with Swedenborg? Like, this is a guy from the world who can kind of travel here, and we want to show him this so that he can write these books. I think he's writing some books. So, or we were trying to create this. No, I mean,
that's great.
I'm being silly about it because I do think that to a lot of angels, what Swedenborg was doing was very important, because he was given what he says was this divine mission to educate people that life after death is like this, among other things. So they were probably saying, look, part of what we're doing here is we're given an example of this that this guy can take home. This is part of the programming and the use of it here.
And the fact that it's palm trees only grow in the warm and in hot climates, I think has something to do with it too, and has that feeling of paradise. I don't know, when people picture paradise, don't you picture palm trees like it's, there's something beautiful about it. And so that having a conversation about warm-heartedness in this gorgeous garden.
Well, it's the promise of heaven. So I would think a palm tree could be he does say, especially in the spiritual heaven, there's levels of heaven, but especially in the spiritual heaven, there's a lot of palm trees. To me, as somebody who has lived his entire life in places that have winters.
Yes.
When I'm around a palm tree, I think like, what would it be like to never know winter was coming? And that's kind of like heaven, because the cycles of life that we go in, where there's hard times and painful things come up, and there's all sorts of challenges, and those things come up. The idea of like, oh no, it's like that stuff's not happening anymore. Like, there might be it gets a little cooler or something, but it's not going to freeze. It's not going to get all dark. To me, that's what I feel when I see a palm tree. It's like, we're just like, school's out forever.
Yeah, when I've been in the islands a couple times, and there's this one island I was on, they said the lowest recorded temperature they ever had there was 69 degrees. And you could tell from the vegetation had just never known suffering, and it just blooms any time of year, because like, hey, it's warm, it's beautiful, we got plenty of, water and everything we need, plenty of sunlight, and it's all good. There's a sense. Now, I love winter, and but Swedenborg's talking about the correspondence of winter, which is a period of your life where things are just stark and frozen and dead.
Yeah. We're not trying to say it's not good to go skiing or
That's
something
right.
like that.
We're not anti-skiing.
We're not trying to say it's not beautiful when snow falls.
Right.
We're just saying that by January 18th, you're like, get me out of here.
Right.
From the conversation, I gathered this in summary. They started with the difficulty of investigating and finding out the sources of married love, since its source is the divinity of heaven, for it is divine love, divine wisdom, and divine activity. The three things go out from the Lord as one thing, so they pour into the souls of people as one thing, and through their souls into their minds and into their inner feelings and thoughts there. In case anyone is not familiar, Swedenborg has a whole book we're reading apart from it about marriage.
Yeah,
and
right.
that there's a relationship that can become incredibly fulfilling and rewarding and can go deeper.
Yeah.
People can be married for eternity and become more and more happy and more perfect.
Real soulmate, just the way people think about
like
it.
like
Twin
this is
flames
like
or whatever people
happily
say.
ever after.
Right.
So
that
that's
actually is a thing. Yeah.
that's what this whole symposium is on, and there's very much like structure and reasons for why it happens. So here he's talking about why do people fall in love? Why is it like that? Well, it has to do with the divine love, divine wisdom, divine activity coming. There's a whole metaphysics of why it is that you have that joining of people, which is just like the joining of love and wisdom. And in case this is their first time hearing from Swedenborg, that's like one of the big themes of his works.
Yeah, and what I picture is those people who were gathered there. I don't know if there was an ad for that event, as you say, but if there was I think the question may have been in people's hearts going to that event is like, if I knew where this came from, this love that I feel, if I knew where this came from, I might be able to get more of it, do a better job with it. You know, if I understood what gets in the way of this, what helps it, what hurts it, you know, because it's mysterious.
Yeah.
Things flow into your heart, and sometimes you're madly in love, and sometimes it's a little more, you know, not a little chillier morning
Touch
now
and
and
go.
then or something like that, right?
So the whole thing is caused by divine love, divine wisdom, and divine activity flowing into people, and through their souls and their minds and inner feelings and thoughts there. Through these, they go on to people's bodily desires, and from these, through their chests, into the genital region. Yes, sex is
getting personal.
I didn't want to. Hopefully, the kids are way out of the room for that. Counter to some religious teachings, to Swedenborg, there's nothing that's bad about sex. He did say, really, like what you want to have is it's monogamous and it's a exclusive part of this relationship. But within that relationship, it's chaste. It's considered chaste. So it's like,
that's right. He's got a very different chastity than other people
right.
have. You know, to most people, chastity meant don't do it. Don't do it at all. Don't even think about it.
And he would even say that celibacy is not preferable to marriage.
That's right, which is another rumor that's gone around.
Well, and so it's a place where he diverges from some in the Christian tradition. And he says, because in heaven, you know, there's a lot of things that make you happy in heaven. One of the big ones is that you have your partner and you keep growing closer and closer, and you do that in all the same ways that you do that on earth.
And he says that this love is holy, and which is not what, you know, there'd been a general thought of like, if you were really going to be a holy person, you would renounce all that. Yeah, I mean, some people, marriage and family, kids, or whatever. But if you were really being holy, you would forswear all that and go off and live a more monastic life.
Right.
To Swedenborg, he's saying, actually, it's holier, it's more heavenly to have this relationship, and the sex piece is an important piece of all that. You know, that's part of the joy.
All right.
There's lots of bad ways to do it, you know, but there is a good version of it.
Kids can come back in the room now. All the things that came from the original source are together there, and together with the things that follow, they make married love. After saying these things, the angels said, "Let's have fellowship in our talk, through questions and answers, because something learned only from hearing may sink in, but it doesn't stay unless the listener thinks about it on his own too and asks questions."
Yeah, so opening it up, I don't know how much that was, you know, it sounds very modern, doesn't it? Like, well, I'm going to give a talk, but then let's have an exercise, or let's get your question and answers going.
And that angel doing that, he's saying this is how we got to teach. You have to think this through for yourself. That's not him or her just I don't know if it specifies. That's not just like, this is the particular culture of this professor. That is the divine method. And you can see this if you look out through the rest of how Swedenborg describes what he observed, is that everything, he talks about how religion, sure, when you're younger, people can teach you religion and stuff. That can never be your actual religion or your actual spirituality.
That's not your religion yet.
Until you reject it a little, look at it, chew it over in your own mind, and either you make it your own or you don't. That you have to go through this process on your own. Think about it for yourself.
And that can go, I think it does, go concept by concept. Like, okay, religion says this. Do you buy that? Does that make sense to you? How about this? Do you buy that? Is that true? And then the things that you do. Yes, no, I think that's totally true. I'm still working on this. I don't know about this aspect of it. But that part is, rock solid. I think that is the truth. And that's the sort of process that you go through unendingly in a way.
That's the only option the only explanation for a world that was made by God that is the way that this one is, which is a totally free agnostic world.
Yeah.
Meaning nothing about the way that the world is forces you, or it stacks the deck to convince you for or against even the existence of God and the afterlife,
right?
Or any particular religious teaching, or even good versus evil. You get to weigh that stuff, and you have to. And there's times in your life that are very potent and powerful, and there's like, for Swedenborg's ideas are very convincing to me. There's a lot of other accounts. There's people that I've had conversation with. There's experiences I've had and things. Definitely that stuff is there, but you always get put back in a space where you weigh it for yourself. Swedenborg even talks about in the afterlife, people being shown the truth and then being exposed to the opposite so that they can weigh it for themselves.
That's right. That's right.
So this process here is say, hey, I'm going to tell you that things are like this. This is what this angel is telling these. Like, here's what I'm going to say about this is what's going on metaphysically in the marriage or relationship you guys are in. I said it, but you got to think it through. Ask some questions here, because ultimately it's going to be up to you to decide, is this really true or not? You know?
Yeah.
Because that's how it is with every other fact that you learn about, every other thing you learn about.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be so? And that is not. It's not to leave us ambiguous or scared in life. It is because it can only truly become a part of you when it's freely chosen. That yes, like it would be nice if God was more obvious, but to choose and pursue God throughout our life freely actually allows there to be love there. Otherwise, it would just be obedience.
Yeah,
and that
right.
Can't ever become love. Obedience is not the same thing as love.
That's right. Absolutely true. If the whole thing is structured on opt-in, and it really does seem like universally in Swedenborg's description of the angels all get that about people, and they're quite careful about their teaching. Like when people are fresh into the other world from this world, angels don't just sort of barrage them. Like it's all on a very Q&A sort of, wasn't Socratic method or what, you pose questions and then people debate on one side or another. And it's and you go in little increments, and the angels always start with what you already know. It says, well, I know you're somebody who does this and cares deeply about that. Okay, so let's take that example, and then you go from there. But then you give them time and you say, there's even situations I may have talked about on the show before that struck me so much where people go to angels, they say, well, what should we think? What should we do? And the angels say, think whatever you like, do whatever you like. Just know that people who think and do this go to heaven, and people who think and do that go to hell. But they will not answer the question for them. It's a total opt-in system.
Yeah, it's an opt-in system. And I think that concepts let's take, for example, Swedenborg's concepts, can give you the tools you need to opt in. So there's plenty of people who I want to believe that God is out there, is taking care of my life. But how do you just do that? So there are some tools that can unlock that. One, for example, is Swedenborg hammers this over and over and over again, that all good comes from God. All good comes from God. Yeah. And this is an essential part of being an angel, is that you understand all good comes.
That. Right.
And that can just go right in one ear and it flies out I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
That just sounds like a phrase. However, when I was going through a difficult time and trying to God, are you going to help me out with this? Then it hit me at some point, because I'd had so many in that time period, so many good interactions with people that had lifted me up, and they knew what to say, and they and I was like, oh, that comes from God. Once you flip that switch of all the goodness comes from God. Even things that are good, like the way something beautiful looks. The way that hits you, that's flowing in from God.
Yeah.
The taste of something good, the feel of warmth. That's all. Then it's God is here all the time. And you can have this little, I see that. And then suddenly the exact same world that seemed is there or isn't there, is chock full of God,
Yeah, full of God. It's a great example. Because you can really walk through this life and feel where is God? God is nowhere. There's not a lick of proof. There's not a scrap of evidence. There's nothing. What is there? There's just this void, and nobody out. You say your prayers and nothing happens, and there's nobody there. When you come to this different mindset and you realize, wow, every loving thing, every beautiful thing, everything that tastes good, every story that moves your heart and you're moved to tears or what, all of that, that little moment in Walmart where somebody couldn't reach the shelf and, asked you for help or something like that. All those moments. All those things.
And Swedenborg will give you the mechanism of how that's so. Because he'll say, God radiates out love and truth. Everybody's mind is receptive to that. And when you see somebody do that help, that's because they opened up and acted on that inflow, which is straight out of God into them.
That's right.
And listen, this is for a little while, we're in this obscure state in the world. But when you're in the afterlife that people, Swedenborg is one of a gajillion people who in their near-death experiences, their spiritual experience, are saying, this is just sitting right there.
Yeah.
It's no longer, it doesn't stay ambiguous forever. I mean, it can, you always have the option to turn your head, but if you're seeking it, you get to the point where it's it's sitting there right in front of you.
It sounds like people learn this within the hour or two of dying, whatever you've been through in your life, this information is just right there.
Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying this show about gardens in heaven. Before we get to our final two gardens, if you're enjoying this subject, there is a book that I think you would be really interested in. To tell you more about it, here's Dr. Jonathan Rose.
Yes, this is a book called Gardens of Heaven and Earth by Kristen King. In this book, she has 3 different sections. One goes into garden correspondences, and the middle one talks about gardens in heaven, and it has the same gardens, that we're talking about in this episode. And then the third part talks about gardens on earth and the whole history of how people started to do walled gardens and what gardens mean. So it's a fascinating, very unusual book, and I recommend it to you. I absolutely love it.
You can get it on Swedenborg.com, or we'll have a link in the description of this video. Check it out if you want to expand your knowledge of divine horticulture. Okay, garden number 3. Believe it or not, this garden also has to do with marriage love. It's a popular subject to garden about.
Okay.
In the afterlife.
Probably because of that thing we were talking about a little bit ago about how heat and light, which Swedenborg often talks about, those two coming together. There's kind of a marriage between those things. I don't know, but it's...
could well be. I was once looking through a window toward the east and saw 7 women sitting in a rose garden by a spring, drinking water. I focused my eyes and looked hard to see what they were doing, and they could tell I was staring at them. So one of them invited me with a nod, and I left the house and hurried over to them. When I arrived there, I asked politely where they came from. "We are wives," they said, "and we are here talking about the joy of married love. And for many reasons we have settled it that the joy of married love is also the joy of wisdom."
Oh.
Wisdom being the right way of living life. Now, they talk more about that. We've got an ellipses here. I think we'll move into the more of the garden-centric part. But any of you can get this book, and you can see the rest of that. After a conversation with these wives, a dove seemed to appear in the distance, flying with a leaf of a tree in its beak. But as it came nearer, it proved to be a little boy instead of a dove, with a piece of paper in his hand. There's some correspondences for you.
Confusing world, I guess. I think that's a bird. Oh, no.
And there's other times when I remember a story of him talking to a couple of angels. And when they're far away, they look like little children.
Yes.
But when they get close, they look like adults.
They're adults. Yeah,
and
right.
Swedenborg says, "Hey, when you guys were coming up," I'm paraphrasing, "you looked like little kids." And they say, "Oh, really? We just look normal to ourselves."
Yeah.
So it's not that you're constantly just like stretching and changing. You have like a mode of life that you're in. But I think to observers, and maybe it can, there's a dial that can, maybe Swedenborg was super aware of correspondences. I don't know if it is the exact same for everyone. But to him, as they're farther away, there's a communication of something about the nature of them.
And this has really, really affected me because often I feel like, well, I don't know anything about that situation. I'm very distant from it. I'm not involved. I'm not on the committee making the decision of what. I'm just way over here. What do I know? But the fact that you can see things in the spiritual world that are true, that maybe the people involved don't even realize, like something good that they don't even see, that there's a childlike quality or an innocence about them that comes across at a distance. And when they get closer, they're not seeing it, and you don't see it when you're closer up. It's really affected me to think, no, you're allowed to say what you see from your perspective. Even if you're miles away from something, you can say, it looks this way to me.
360 review. There's this thing they'll do.
That's right.
I guess it could be anyone, but executives will do it
They
in
do it with
organizations.
executives, absolutely.
A 360 review means, yes, your boss says how he thinks you're doing or she thinks you're doing.
Which is very traditional. That's right.
But also 360, so the whole circle, people, coworkers who are on the same level as you. Also the people that work for you. Also the people that work in the factory. All of them get a chance to talk about you and your performance because,
that's right.
And people know that's a smart way to gather information because people in every different position in the company are going to understand things about the impact of this person in a way that you don't get if you only have the person reflecting on themselves or their boss reflecting on them. And it's a good thing to do, even though it's scary, because if it's true that like something you're doing is making people in this area, their life consistently harder, there's probably a fix there.
Yeah, that's right. And a colleague who's extremely close and thinks about things the same way you do might have a very favorable, obviously, very favorable view of everything that you do. But somebody in another part of the organization, as you say, may be getting a very different vibe, and even if it's incorrect, it's still useful information that, I'm coming across in a way that I don't want to here.
Okay, we continue. Coming up to us, this is a little boy who looked like a dove before. Okay. He's got a piece of paper in his hand. Coming up to us, he held out the paper and said, "Read this." I read these words: "Tell the earth dwellers you are with that genuine married love does exist. It has thousands of delights, and the world still knows hardly any of them. But it will know them when the church betroths herself to the Lord and marries."
Whoa. That's a beautiful prediction for the future. And this is not talking about the future in heaven. This is talking about the future on earth, right?
Yeah.
That tell the people on earth, hey, this is coming back. This is going to make a comeback. This is going to get more popular again.
Yeah, man. Okay, there's a couple of things in there that are worth talking about. One of them is there was tons of marriage around in Swedenborg's day.
Yep.
In fact, you had to be married in society pretty much. You didn't have to. Swedenborg wasn't, but like that was like much more a norm you had to do than, let's say, today in contemporary United States of America. However, Swedenborg would say barely anybody thinks that married love actually exists, because just because you have this agreement and you went to do a ceremony in church, if you're living with someone and you're not nice to each other, or you don't care about each other, or you're not, or even you just can get along, but you're not feeling this like, wow, this is like the staple joy of my life. You can still think it's not that marriage does or doesn't exist. That does the soulmate joy.
Does that?
And Swedenborg was saying it's actually in the 1700s. It may have changed by now. It was rare. It was very rare for that to be happening. But okay. So that's one thing.
At the level of the nobility where he was in society, most of the marriages are arranged, or you're forming alliances. I mean, I've just been listening to history podcasts and things, and so often, the reason you marry so-and-so is because they're the daughter of Queen Victoria, or somebody like this. And,
right.
That's how this whole thing goes. And
so he's saying, listen, this can not just be something that makes some political alliance, but this can be the really great thing that you love. And that's coming back.
Thousands of delights, almost none of, what are all those different, like thousands? Really? You can number them? They're different?
But it will know them when the church betroths herself to the Lord and marries. So we were trying to say that you were saying like the love and truth, there's like a marriage there. There's like a marriage between God and the human race. Swedenborg calls the part of the human race that is open and receptive to God the church, which can be within it's fundamental unit within each individual. Right. There's a church and in you.
All over the planet, he says. Yeah.
So when the church betroths, so something about when we, as the human race, or you individually, are conjoined with God, then that allows that love that they were talking about in that last garden, the divine love, divine wisdom activity, to somehow come in and make it happen.
You will understand that in a new way when this makes a comeback. Yeah.
Then one of the seven wives twined a wreath of roses and sprinkled it with spring water and put it on the boy's cap around his little head and said, "Here are some joys of intelligence. You see that cap stands for intelligence, and a wreath from this rose bed is the joys in it." Decorated that way, the boy set off, and in the distance again he looked like a dove flying, but with a garland on its head. Interesting too that interaction with the boy was for Swedenborg, because he said, "Tell the earth dwellers that you're with."
Yeah, he didn't come here to be with the other people who were in the garden.
It's not just random. Like there's intent and all that. Okay, then we're going to later. He has a
so Swedenborg may feel like when he's looking out the window, I mean, he knows how it works by now for sure. But still, when he looks out the window, he feels it. Oh, wait, what's going on out there? People are gathering. Well, I'm interested to know what they're talking about. What's going on?
Yeah.
But it could feel quite random to him, like this is just a happenstance. But then it's like, we're glad you're here. We're going to send in the dove child and give you the information for Earth.
There's providence. Okay, then there's a sequel interaction with these same seven wives. I saw the seven wives again some days later in a rose garden, but not the same one.
Not the same one.
It was a magnificent rose garden. I had never seen one like it before.
And by the way, he was the owner of a nice rose garden, and still to this day in Skansen, which is an outdoor museum in Sweden, you can see there's a rose garden outside. They still have his summer house that he wrote the books in, and they have a rose garden out in front of there, which is appropriate.
Nice. It was round, and the roses there formed a kind of rainbow arch. Its outer circle was roses or deep crimson flowers. Inside that were others of a golden yellow. Inside those were others of a deep blue, and onion green or bright green flowers were innermost of all. In this rainbow rose garden was a pool of transparent water. The 7 wives sitting there again saw me at the window and invited me to join them. When I came, they said, "Did you ever see anything more beautiful on earth?" I said, "Never." "The Lord creates a thing like this in a moment," they said, "and it stands for something that is new on earth."
Oh.
Everything that the Lord creates is representative. See if you can guess what the new thing is. We'll guess it's the joy of married love.
And so this was the reason they're in a different garden this week than last week is that garden didn't exist.
Yes.
This is new, and it represents something new that's happening.
It's not just like the Ud flicks in and flicks out, but this is here because there's something new happening on earth.
There's something new going on.
They're going to guess that the new thing happening on earth is this, some kind of start of a revival of the joy of married love. When I heard this, I said, "The joy of married love. You told me so much about it so eloquently before, from your wisdom." After more conversation with the wives and their husbands, the little boy came again with a piece of paper in his hand and held it out to me, saying, "Read." This is what I read. "Something you need to know is that the joy of married love rises to the highest heaven, and both there and on the way there, it joins together with the joy of all heavenly loves, and so they enter a happiness that lasts forever. The reason is that the joy of married love is also the joy of wisdom." After this, the husbands left with their wives and kept the little boy company all the way to a path that he followed to heaven. They knew what community he was sent from, and it was a community of the new heaven. The new church on earth will be associated with it. For anyone who doesn't know, what's that? Yeah, tell about that.
Well, I know all about it, of course.
Go ahead, smarty pants.
Yeah, this idea, I mean, Scripture talks about a new heaven and a new earth. It says something about that in Isaiah. It says something about that in the book of Revelation. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. But how amazing to think that there was this new heaven just being created at that time. Swedenborg got to witness this. And then there's this, whoever this boy is, which might be a full-grown angel. You know, I don't even know. But,
right.
But this is someone from that new heaven who's bringing these messages. The first time the message comes, it's about tell people on earth. But the second time, it's just, let me tell you something. You know, there wasn't pass on this message, right? In the second one, he just says, this is how this works.
So you have...
And a new heaven would be a new way. Swedenborg says that different heavens have different ways of viewing God, a different understanding, right? Because that is the actual geography of the spiritual world, is based on love and understanding. Yeah. And so it's new territory. It's a new way of loving God. It's a new way of having wisdom. And this idea that those joys are the joys of wisdom. Like, I think people would think, well, okay, the joy, yes, there are joys and satisfactions and pleasures in marriage and so on. They're sharing life and companionship and you know, foot rubs and what, you know, it's okay, it's great. But
Wordle.
Choice of wisdom, you know? Yeah. Exactly.
The genius of wisdom, yeah. That we could go deep into all that. And we have many times. And it's just fascinating. Like you said, whenever you bring up any one part of the Swedenborg stuff, it just goes into all the other parts of it. But I do think he talks about the new church, right? The new church is going to be this new era for the human race, and that you can't really have the new church without a heaven to support it. Like all the things that go on earth, all the kinds of ways people think and feel and believe things could become because there's a heaven up there that can support that kind of consciousness. So there's this new heaven being built, and as it's being built, you'll see some impacts of it on earth. And
that is the image in the book of Revelation. That's the prediction that this new Jerusalem will come down from God out of heaven. That's an image of this new heaven that then becomes a new era on earth. And it really does strike me right now that I think it's a better understanding of who God is, and how to love people and so on. Like it's a different understanding. And the predictions, particularly in the Old Testament, interestingly, about how present the Lord is going to be, very, very vividly present. It says in Joel that they will all, everybody's going to testify and prophesy, that the Spirit of God will be on everybody. And other scriptures say that they'll all know me from the greatest to the least. Nobody will have to teach anybody about the Lord. I think these are images of what it'll be like in this new era. So pretty cool that he could even pinpoint like which week that happened, because this new garden. And what a way to celebrate it, I made a new garden, and I invited these 7 women who were in the other garden. How would you like to see the new garden? And Swedenborg is again peeking out the window and thinking, oh, that's awesome.
Garden number 4. Believe it or not, we're sticking with the theme of marriage gardens because the book Married Love is so packed with gardens. So
it does have a lot of gardens. What is it with gardens? Yeah.
So this is from Married Love 3:16. Walking along at one time, at rest in my soul and in the peace of a happy mind, I saw a park in the distance, with a covered walk in the middle of it, leading to a small palace. And I saw young women and young men and husbands and wives go in. I approached in spirit and asked a keeper standing in the entrance if I could go inside too. He looked at me, and I said, "Why are you looking at me?" Wonder how long he was looking at him before he said that.
Right.
"I'm looking at you," he answered, "to see if the peaceful happiness in your face includes something of the happiness of married love. Past this walk is a small garden with a house in the middle of it where 2 newlyweds are. Their male and female friends are coming today to wish them happiness. I'm not acquainted with the people I let in, but I was told that I'd know them by their faces. If I see the happiness of married love in them, I am to let them in and not others." He's like a bouncer, but he doesn't have you're not on the list. He's like, I gotta look at your face.
And I'll know. They trust that he will just know. See, he must have this ability to see that this quality is in people.
All angels,
so interesting.
All angels can see other people's heartfelt joy in their faces and the delight of their love. The delight he saw in my face was that I was thinking about the love in marriage.
Because he's writing a book on it.
Right.
But I also think it's been a long-standing interest of his. He talks a lot in all of his different books about marriage.
This thought shone from my eyes and went from there to the more inward parts of my face. So he said I could go in. It's interesting because Swedenborg's not married.
Nope.
So it's not like, you have to be in the club. But he's like, no, you just have to like it. I think that's cool.
That's right.
The covered walk I entered through was made of fruit trees connected to each other by their limbs. A lot of it's like connecting.
Right.
Arborist.
That's
sculpting.
Right.
They made an unbroken wall of trees on either side. Through the walk I went into the little garden, which breathed a pleasant fragrance from its shrubs and flowers. The shrubs and flowers were pair by pair, and I heard that little gardens like that appear around houses where there are or have been weddings, and that for that reason they are called wedding gardens.
So when you're walking around some community in heaven, you can sort of tell the newlyweds like, oh, wedding garden.
It's like,
I didn't know.
It's like the cans on the back of the car.
That's right.
That's how they do it in heaven.
Only far more beautiful.
Then I went into the house where I saw the 2 married partners holding hands and talking together because of their genuine married love. And then I could read in their faces the image of married love and what is alive about it in their conversation. After I and many others had offered them congratulations and wished them happiness, I went out into the little wedding garden, and on the right side of it I saw a group of young people. Everyone who came out of the house was hurrying to this group. They hurried there because the conversation there was about the love in marriage, and this conversation draws everyone's soul to it by some hidden force. So it strikes me there that often these gardens are paired with conversations. And he said in the beginning, the gardens are a picture of intelligence and wisdom and feeling. So there's like an activity going on in them that corresponds to what's going on outside of them.
And may in turn also inspire certain kinds of conversation because of the connection between the garden outside and the thoughts and feelings inside.
All right, so what does this all mean? How does this, what's a big picture here? We got, God has created the universe so that heaven can exist. So we've gotten a picture into heaven. Life in the world is a preparation for heaven. We got a picture of heaven, and part of heaven is that there's this beauty around you, so you'll be happy, but it's also beauty that means something, so it can be useful, right?
Right. And the thing that's striking me right now is that when you go in a garden, it looks really beautiful. When you become a gardener, you realize it's different every day. And there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of change. And, we should move this over here. This is getting larger. And there's a lot of growth and change in that. So it's not a static image, I don't think. Like what the garden is and what it's representing here is not a static thing. It's very much about growth. It's striking that I was listening to another audiobook about plants the other day, and it was talking about the fact that plants never stop growing. Humans, we talked about this in another episode, I think. But that's tremendous growth. When you see these old, amazing trees, that have been around for thousands of years, and what that corresponds to, just this sort of growth of wisdom and perception over time.
I think that ultimately the deepest connection between us and this cultivation of land, which is what a garden is that you are the garden, God is the gardener. And you could look, one way you could look at your life is like God's putting on his gloves every morning, put on his hat, getting out there, got his knee pads on, he's getting down into the dirt, and he's trying to say, all right, these kinds of plants that are growing up in you and kind of overtaken and choke, we need to pull those out. I know they're going to come back in a little while, but for now we need to pull these out, and I'm trying to plant this thing in you. I really want this thing to grow here. And so if you're willing, I'm going to get it so that this turns into this. And then you don't even realize, but that whole thing over there, see that by the fence, that just looks like I want to turn that into this and this and this. And then as you, throughout your life, you get these new kinds of feelings, new kinds of thoughts. Ultimately, the garden he's turning you into is the Garden of Eden. Is a garden, one of these heavenly gardens that is the happiness and contentment that Swedenborg says. He's walking around with that happiness and contentment. That's God, pulling out the things in your mind that are causing you misery and causing other people misery, and putting in things that are useful and good and beautiful. That's life. You could. It's a good metaphor for life, and so it can resonate. And in the there's a garden. There's your garden somewhere up in the spiritual world where God is just like tending, working hard, and seeing those changes in you every day. Most of which you don't even know, but he's got a plan, and he's got his tools, and he's going to make it happen. Thanks everybody for watching. Jonathan, thank you so much for the conversation. Hey, if you are watching and you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead, hit that button. That helps us out a lot. Hit the like on this video to spread it to the next person. And, go out there and notice the beauty of nature and plants, and do a little tilling of your own mind to see if you can't, get that thing looking more and more heavenly. Thanks, everybody.